I never meant to become a disappointment to my family. But according to them, that's exactly what happened when I chose flour and sugar over law books and courtrooms. My name is Olivia Chen, and while my sister Madeline was busy climbing the corporate ladder at Boston's most prestigious law firm, I was pursuing a different kind of dream, one that smelled like vanilla extract and freshly baked bread. Another birthday cake. My mother's voice carried its familiar note of disappointment as she watched me pipe delicate roses onto a three-tiered masterpiece. It's not too late to apply to law school. The LSAT prep books I bought you are still on your shelf. I kept my eyes focused on the intricate design taking shape beneath my hands. The roses needed to be perfect. This cake was for the mayor's daughter's wedding. Not that my mother would care about that detail. The bakery is doing well, Mom, I said, carefully adding another petal. We've doubled our orders this month. She sighed, the sound heavy with unspoken judgment. Doubled from what? 5 cakes to 10. Meanwhile, your sister just closed another major case. Did you hear she's being considered for partner? Of course I'd heard. We'd all heard. It was the only topic of conversation at every family dinner for the past 3 months. I'd always known I was different from Madeline. While she excelled in debate club and mock trials, I found my peace in the kitchen. My earliest memories were of standing on a stool beside my grandmother, watching her transform simple ingredients into works of art. She was the only one who ever encouraged my passion. Baking isn't just about following recipes, she'd tell me, her wrinkled hands guiding mine as we kneaded dough. It's about creating moments of joy. When someone tastes something you've made with love, they carry that happiness with them. When Grandma passed away, she left me her recipe book, a weathered leather journal filled with handwritten notes, secret techniques, and family recipes dating back generations. My mother thought I should sell it to a collector. Instead, I used it as the foundation for my dream. Sweet Dreams Bakery opened in a tiny storefront 3 years ago. While Madeline was earning 6 figures at her law firm, I was waking up at 4 a.m. to proof dough and prep for the day's orders. My parents saw it as a hobby that had gone too far. They couldn't understand why anyone would choose a life of early mornings and flour-covered aprons over the prestige of a legal career. You have so much potential, my father would say, shaking his head. You graduated summa cum laude from Cornell. You could be arguing cases at the Supreme Court by now. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't understand the joy on a child's face when they saw their birthday cake for the first time. They couldn't appreciate the tears in a bride's eyes when her wedding cake was exactly what she dreamed of. They missed the magic that happened in my little bakery every single day. Then came my parents' 35th anniversary party. Madeline insisted on hosting it at the exclusive Hamilton Club, where she'd recently become a member. I offered to make the cake, but my mother quickly shut that down. Oh no, dear, she said with forced politeness. We've already ordered from Bellissimo's. They're very exclusive. There's a 6-month waiting list. What she didn't know was that Bellissimo's head pastry chef, Marco, was my mentor. He'd taken me under his wing when I was still learning, teaching me techniques that weren't in any cookbook. When I told him about my mother's order, he just smiled. Then we'll give them something spectacular. No, he winked. The night of the anniversary party arrived. The Hamilton Club's ballroom was filled with Boston's elite, judges, lawyers, and corporate executives, all there to celebrate my parents. Madeline worked the room like the natural socialite she was, dropping casual mentions of her latest legal victories into every conversation. I stood quietly by the dessert table, watching as servers carry out the massive anniversary cake I'd spent 3 days creating. 5 tiers of elegant white fondant, hand-painted with delicate cherry blossoms. My mother's favorite flour. Each tier was a different flavor, crafted to tell my parents' love story. The lemon cake from their first date, the chocolate ganache from their honeymoon in Paris, the vanilla bean from their wedding day. Oh my God! I heard my mother gasp as the cake was unveiled. It's absolutely perfect. Madeline immediately stepped forward. Only the best for you, Mom. Bellissimo's is known for their exceptional work. That's when Marco appeared, champagne glass in hand. Actually, he announced with a proud smile, this masterpiece was created by one of the most talented pastry chefs I've ever had the pleasure of mentoring, your daughter, Olivia. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face froze in mid-smile. My father's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. And Madeline looked like someone had just told her the Supreme Court had been abolished. That's impossible, my sister finally sputtered. This is a Bellissimo's cake. It's too professional? Marco supplied helpfully. Too elegant? Too perfect? Yes, it is all of those things. And it is all Olivia's work. Before anyone could respond, the room erupted in applause. Guests swarmed forward, cameras flashing. The food editor from Boston Magazine, who happened to be in attendance, started asking me questions about my technique. A prominent wedding planner pulled out her business card, insisting we talk about a collaboration. But the real shock was yet to come, because what my family didn't know was that this cake wasn't just an anniversary present. It was my audition piece for the Food Network Championship, and I just received word that I'd been selected as one of the 10 competitors. I hadn't told anyone about entering the competition. After years of having my dreams dismissed, I'd learned to keep my ambitions to myself. But as I watched my mother take her first bite of the cake, her eyes widening in surprise at the familiar flavors that held so many memories, I knew it was time to step out of the shadows. Marco raised his glass, commanding attention once again. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce not just a talented baker, but one of the contestants in this year's Food Network Championship. The winner, as you may know, receives not only the prestigious title but also a $100,000 prize and their own show on the network. The room buzzed with excitement. My father dropped his fork. Madeline's perfect smile cracked slightly at the edges, and my mother just stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. But this was just the beginning, because what none of them knew was that I had one more surprise up my flour-dusted sleeve, one that would force them to completely reevaluate everything they thought they knew about success, ambition, and the true value of following your dreams. The Food Network Championship wasn't just a competition. It was my chance to prove that following your passion isn't a waste of potential. But my family, particularly Madeline, seemed determined to undermine my confidence at every turn. Reality TV, she scoffed during our weekly family dinner, precisely 1 week before the competition. That's your big career move, playing around with sugar on camera. I pushed my food around my plate, trying to maintain my composure. The championship isn't just a show, Madeline. It's the most prestigious pastry competition in the country. Oh please, she rolled her eyes, cutting into her steak with surgical precision. I just made partner at Harrison and Wells. Do you know how many people make partner before 35? 3%. That's real achievement, not. She waved her fork dismissively, decorating cookies. My father cleared his throat. Now girls, let's not argue. Though Madeline does have a point, Olivia. There's no guarantee you'll even make it past the first round. Perhaps it's time to consider a more stable career path. What they didn't know was that I'd been practicing 18 hours a day for months. My little bakery had become my training ground, each special order a chance to perfect new techniques. I converted my apartment's spare room into a test kitchen, working through Grandma's recipes, updating them, innovating while respecting tradition. The morning of the competition, my phone buzzed with a text from Madeline. Break a leg on your little cooking show. Try not to embarrass the family too much. I turned off my phone and focused on centering myself. The Food Network studios were a whirlwind of activity, cameras, producers, and 9 other world-class pastry chefs all preparing for the challenge ahead. The first round's theme was Childhood Reimagined. We had 2 hours to create a sophisticated dessert inspired by a childhood memory. As the host announced begin, I closed my eyes briefly, remembering afternoons in Grandma's kitchen. While other contestants reached for molecular gastronomy tools and exotic ingredients, I went back to basics. I began crafting a deconstructed apple pie, but not just any apple pie. This was Grandma's secret recipe, the one she taught me when I was 7, transformed into something entirely new. Caramelized apple spheres filled with spiced apple butter, shattered pie crust tuiles, brown butter ice cream, and a delicate cage of pulled sugar designed to look like apple blossoms. Each element honored tradition while pushing boundaries. As time was called, I looked at my creation and smiled. It was everything I'd imagined, everything Grandma had taught me about respecting ingredients while daring to innovate. The judges approached my station. Among them was Laurent Duchamp, the legendary French pastry chef whose cookbooks had helped me through countless sleepless nights of practice. Tell us about your dish, the host prompted. I straightened my shoulders. This is a deconstructed apple pie, inspired by afternoons baking with my grandmother. Each component represents a memory, a lesson she taught me about both baking and life. Laurent took a bite, his expression unreadable. The studio fell silent. Finally, he spoke. This is not just dessert. This is emotion on a plate. The technique is flawless, yes. But more importantly, I can taste the love, the memory, the respect for tradition while daring to be innovative. C'est parfait. I advanced through round after round. My family didn't attend any of the filmings, but I knew they were watching at home. My mother sent brief, factual texts. Saw you made it through round 2. Your hair looked messy on camera. Madeline just won another big case. The finals came down to me and Anton, a celebrated pastry chef from New York. The challenge: create a showpiece that tells your life story through sugar and chocolate. We had 8 hours. I poured everything into that piece, every dismissive comment, every undermined dream, every moment of doubt transformed into art. The base was dark chocolate, textured to look like law books, crumbling away to reveal delicate sugar flowers blooming from their pages. A sugar ribbon spiraled upward, carrying small chocolate frames featuring edible paintings of key moments. Grandma teaching me to bake, opening my bakery, creating my parents' anniversary cake. At the top, a pulled sugar bird emerged from a cage, wings spread wide. When time was called, I stepped back, barely breathing. This wasn't just a showpiece, it was my declaration of independence. The judges circled both pieces, taking notes, whispering among themselves. Laurent lingered at my showpiece, studying the detail in each tiny frame. The level of technical skill here is remarkable, he said, gesturing to the sugar work. But what moves me most is the story. This is about transformation, about breaking free from expectations to follow your heart. It is, how do you say, a masterpiece. The deliberation felt endless. Finally, the host stepped forward with the envelope. The winner of this year's Food Network Championship, receiving $100,000 and their own show on the network is... My heart pounded. Olivia Chen. The studio erupted in applause. Laurent hugged me, whispering magnifique. Anton gave me a gracious nod of respect. But all I could think about was Grandma, wishing she could see this moment. That's when I noticed movement near the studio entrance. My family stood there, my parents, Madeline, even my aunts and uncles. They'd come after all. My mother stepped forward first, her eyes glistening. We watched every episode at home, she said softly. I didn't understand at first, but watching you work, you're an artist, Olivia. A true artist. Madeline hung back, her usual confidence wavering. I walked over to her, trophy in hand. Still think I'm just playing with cupcakes? I asked quietly. She shook her head, something like respect finally showing in her eyes. I was wrong. What you do, it's incredible. I could never create something like that. That's when Laurent approached our group. Ah, you must be Olivia's family. You should be very proud. She's not just won a competition. She's being offered a position as head pastry chef at my new restaurant in New York. And he smiled broadly. I'd like to invest in expanding her bakery nationwide. My father's jaw dropped. Madeline's perfect composure cracked completely. My mother actually had to sit down. But that's not all, I said, drawing myself up to full height. The network doesn't just want to give me a cooking show. They want to brand an entire line of baking products and cookbooks. The contract? I smiled at Madeline, which their lawyers assure me is ironclad, is worth $2 million. The silence that followed was sweeter than any dessert I ever created. 6 months later, Sweet Dreams Bakery had locations in 3 cities, with more opening soon. My TV show Sweet Success with Olivia was the network's highest-rated new program, and my first cookbook, dedicated to Grandma, was climbing the bestseller lists. Madeline still practices law, but she's changed. Sometimes she stops by the bakery after court, her power suits dusted with flour as I teach her to make the perfect croissant. My mother enrolled in a baking class, telling anyone who'll listen about her talented daughter, the pastry chef. And my father? He finally admitted that success doesn't always wear a suit and carry a briefcase. Sometimes it wears an apron and carries a piping bag. As for me, I keep Grandma's recipe book displayed proudly in every Sweet Dreams location. Its weathered pages remind me that the sweetest success comes from following your heart even when everyone else thinks you're wrong. Because sometimes the person everyone underestimates turns out to be the one they should have believed in all along.